they're going to continue to have prices creep up slowly enough that they hope that, the normies don't notice too much.
Yeah.
They're going to devalue your wages just slowly enough that you don't think, it's going to notice, right? And that kind of, goes into our next slide is it doesn't matter, what you have. It's like your wages are getting devalued in terms of desirable assets, okay? You fast forward, go back 25 years, it would have taken you 0.7 weeks to buy 1 ounce of real money. 0.7 weeks of wages, you could have bought 1 ounce of gold. This is a 1 ounce Canadian gold coin produced by the Canadian Mint. You could have bought that with 0.7 weeks of median wages. Fast forward today, you need to work 3 weeks of a median wage job to buy one of these things, excluding tax. If we assume that you didn't pay any tax, right? So excluding tax, it's still the same ounce. They haven't changed the value of an ounce. You know what I mean? Some of the packages of food you buy are smaller than they used to be, right? But an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold, and now you got to work 3 weeks to buy one at median wages. Crazy. House, you want to buy the TSX index, okay? Could have bought the TSX index with 13.1 weeks of median wages. Now it's 20 weeks of median wages. You could have bought a house at 307 weeks of median wages. Now it's 640 weeks.
That's more than double.
More than double. And that's 640 weeks of median wages without tax. Without tax, right? We talked about last week. It's like the average Canadian's paying 43% in tax. So 643% in tax. So 640 weeks of median wages to buy the average house in Canada, right? And, we bring this for the people of the boot camp because people think, well, surely it matters, what income bracket you're at. It's like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. We graph them all at the boot camp, and we show everyone the 25-year history of this stuff and on a rolling 25-year basis. And it doesn't matter whether you're at minimum wage, median wage, average wage, top 1% threshold wage, the value of your hours worth of work is going down in relation to the desirable assets that you want to buy. It's like you have to understand how this system works. If you do not get your hands on any desirable assets, it's just you have to run faster and faster on the treadmill to have just the same style of life, okay? And so you have to get off of that treadmill, right? This is the most powerful one. And I don't put this up there for, like, I know this isn't one of our biggest bang posts. It's just like the boring post, and some people might even have to see it a few times before they understand what it is. It's just, but this is the post. Like, this is the one post that happens every month, and I don't think I'll ever take it off of there because, like, this is it.
Well,
right?
Really, when you look at it, so you're comparing your labor units, the amount of work you have to put in, right?
Yeah.
And then it's also showing the rate at which the asset price the asset price is going up, right?
Yeah.
So whenever there's an inflationary trigger that happens, the assets go up in value, right? But your wages remain basically the same.
Yes.
Right? So buying the assets, having assets in your portfolio, desirable assets, real estate, gold, Bitcoin, Canadian dividend paying stocks, having them when there's that inflationary inflection point, boom. Yeah. Like that goes up, but your wages stay the same. So really you're getting a little bit richer. Can we say it that way?
Yeah. In asset terms, the goal is to trade the fake money, the 20 billion Zimbabwean dollars for the real assets. Okay. Now I hold up the gold coin, but really I think people should be, look at those asset classes. It's like you got to think long and hard about getting all of those, okay? Because there's not much certainty in any one of those asset classes. The certainty comes from having diversification across those asset classes. So you need to be invested in asset classes that are likely to keep pace with inflation over time. Gotcha. Keep pace or exceed inflation over time. And you can be in asset classes like, say, a bond that is, you could be in a bond that, doesn't have the same volatility as some of these asset classes, but it's not likely to keep pace with inflation. So is that actually less risk? I don't think so. That's less volatility. The risk is almost certain because you're going to get devalued over time. And so, this is what we're fighting against. And it's like, we put the 20 billion Zimbabwe dollars up, because it's kind of funny, how bad it is. But when you look at a Canadian dollar, it's not great. It's still fake money. A Canadian dollar, a US dollar, they're not going to keep pace.
Euros, British pound, it's all fake.
They're not keeping pace with the desirable asset classes. And
now, if you have been following along for a while, you know that the CPI number is not the real inflation number. The real inflation number, as Josh has shared many times, is really 8%.
Yeah,
8%.
8%. When we started showing it to clients at 6%, and it was 6% for a while, like legitimately 6%. But now we see the effects of the increased spending through COVID and beyond COVID, and like now we're dealing with 8%. And I told everyone with 6%, it's like, I'm pretty sure it's going to 10%. Like, I'm pretty sure we're going to 10%. And some people say it's like, oh, it's 60. It's like 60% over a number of years that you're seeing, right? But I'm pretty sure it's going to 10%. I would hope it stays at 6%. My hopes are the people in charge make good choices and it stays at 6%. But don't think that they can make good choices and make it -2 and they're going to bring prices back down. It's not going to happen, or 0. It's just not the way the fundamentals of how the system works. But we should be prepared for 10%. I think 10% is kind of the baseline case on the trajectory of where we're going with increasing debt loads. The U.S. just crossed over $35 trillion. $35 trillion. They're paying over $1 trillion in interest every year. This is going to get worse before it gets better. And then we also need to be prepared for 15%. And 15% might not sound, people are like, okay, 15% is not going to cause some sort of, really bad outcome, but 15% year on year is just massive. Like that's just a massive rate, right? And they're going to try to sell it at, it's 2 or 3%, but it's not, because the CPI numbers, they're based on a basket of goods, but that basket of goods gets adjusted by people who no longer have the money to buy the basket. Yeah. That we always bring up the simple example of the person who has, they make $2,000 a month and they spend $1,000 a month on rent and $1,000 a month on groceries. And that's the only 2 expenses they have. And the guy only eats steak. And then he goes into the grocery store next month and all of a sudden the steak has doubled in price. He's not going to go hungry. He's going to change the basket of goods that he buys so he can eat on 1,000. Okay. In that example, that guy is still spending $1,000 a month on groceries. His grocery inflation is 0 according to the CPI. People adjust their spending, right, based on, how much, they can only spend what they have, right?
Yeah.
What they have and what they can borrow, which, can't go up exponentially over time. So